Okay, part 2 of the test is writing equations. Given some specific information, mainly for this section, a point and a slope, because we're talking about the point-slope formula. Now, it does say find the equation in slope-intercept form, so we do need to know what that vocabulary means. Slope-intercept form is what we saw in that last section. It means that it starts with y equals. And in general, it's going to look like this, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. So, first thing we should do is we should label our coordinates, x1 and y1. M is already labelled for us. We should write down the formula, and this is a formula you need to learn. This is not on the formula sheet. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. We then substitute in our numbers, so it says y1 is 2, slope is 3, and x1 is 1. We can then distribute 3 times x, 3 times negative 1. And to make it say y equals, I just need to move this negative 2 to the other side, and I do that by doing the inverse. So negative 2 plus 2 is just 0, so I just get left with y. And then negative 3 add 2. And make sure you're using your calculator for that one. A lot of people making mistakes on basic negative numbers work, so if you're not sure, just go ahead and use your calculator. Number 2 is going to be the same thing, x1, y1. It already tells you the slope, so that will be m. And then we're going to write out that formula again. This time, as I'm substituting in, notice I'm subtracting y1, which is also negative. So those two negatives together are going to make a plus for me. Okay, y slope is negative 4, and x1 it says is 2, so I can just fill in 2 here. As it says negative, I already leave the negative there. Distribute, so negative 4 times x, negative 4x, and negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. Once again, to make it say just y equals, do the opposite to move this across. So instead of adding 6, we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. And 8 take away 6 is 2. And don't forget to put the positive sign there as well to show that it is indeed positive 2. Last one, we're going to do the same thing. Label the points. Write down the slope is m. Write out the formula again. And then start substituting in. So it says y1 is 3, so y minus 3 equals the slope, x minus the x value, which is 6. Distribute 5 times x, 5 times negative 6 is negative 30. And then move the negative 3 to the other side by doing the inverse, so add 3 to both sides. And negative 30 add 3, once again check carefully on your calculator, is negative 27. And therefore you can answer that question then by putting subtract 27. We have one last one of these, so we'll do the same thing, x1, y1, and equals negative 3. Write out the formula again. Substitute in our numbers, so y1 is 1, slope is negative 3, and another one where I'm subtracting something that's negative, so that's going to turn into a positive. I can now distribute this. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And move the negative 1 across by doing the opposite, which is 2 add 1. And negative 6 add 1 is negative 5. So we're just going to put a subtract 5 to show that it's indeed negative. Now, numbers 5 and 6, I'm not going to do the complete question, but I'm going to show you how you start the question. So notice on these questions we had a point and a slope, which is why we use the point-slope formula. Notice on this question we actually have 2 coordinates. So we certainly have a point, but we don't have a slope. So the key step for this one is to actually work out what the slope is. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And this was something you actually did in Unit 1. So the formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plug in those numbers, so 2 minus y1 is negative 1. And notice again we're subtracting a negative number. So I could change that into a plus. x2 is 5, and x1 is 2. 2 add 1 is 3. 5 minus 2 is also 3. So when you work out your slope, you actually get 1. Or in other words, m equals 1. Now notice once we use this, with this point, this is actually the same as the first 4 questions now. Use the first point, use the slope, and then you can use the point-slope formula. If you actually do use the point-slope formula, you should actually find that the answer would turn out to be y equals x, or 1x if you prefer, minus 3. Okay, next question. We're going to do the same thing. x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to substitute into that formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plug in the numbers. Negative 1 minus, y1 is 11, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is 2. So I got negative 12 divided by 4, which turns out to be 3. So our slope would be negative 3. Pick this as our key coordinate again. And if you work through the rest of this question, what you should actually find is y equals 2x plus 17, if you want to continue just to make sure. Oh, sorry, not minus 3x, I apologize. Minus 3x plus 17. Now, our last two questions are actually going to be the easiest ones of all. Now, if they give you a slope and an intercept, then you can just use that slope-intercept form straight away. Y equals mx plus b, and you just plug them straight in. So a slope of 2 and an intercept of 6, and we're done. You don't need to convert this to a coordinate and write it as 0, 6. You can just write the answer straight away. So same for this one. Y equals mx plus b, as they've given us the y-intercept. Substitute in 3x plus 0. And as we saw earlier, if it's plus 0, we don't need to write that, so we can just write y equals 3x. Now, the last one's written slightly differently, but we should know that the origin, that means it goes through, I draw my little set of axes, it means that it goes through like this. So notice on the y-axis, the intercept is 0. So I could write this as y equals 1/2 x plus 0, and like the previous question, we don't need to put the plus 0. So just y equals 1/2 x.